Good morning, everybody. It's Marty, the JavaScript party, and my buddy Rhett. It is Saturday, 11:25 in the morning, Marietta, Georgia. I believe it's like 45 degrees Fahrenheit outside, which is warmer. Let me take a quick look. Do a little business. It's important to have some sort of context of your life. If you don't, it gets weird. Life gets real weird. Um, let's see, 48 degrees Fahrenheit. And it is the full forecast of Edge just took over my whole screen. Here's a nut for Rhett. Let's get this thing to the correct size. I've been pretty excited about doing this specific video for a little while. It's kind of like I want to use words that are like not quite internationally safe, like, or culturally safe. Not that they're like offensive or anything like that. So it looks like it's gonna steadily warm up to 52 degrees Fahrenheit at 3 p.m. I believe we're playing frisbee at 3 p.m. today. So and then so it's gonna be 52 degrees. So that should be pretty nice because it's very, very, very nice out, like in general, other than the temperature. But we have like certain words, that are generational and like uh um local, have a locality to them too. And a word that's pretty popular here is harbinger. And generally, I don't think I believe harbinger is neither negative or positive. I believe it's a neutral word. But like sometimes there's these harbingers for um, that sort of like you're like, oh, okay, whew, this is what things look like when things are starting to work out. And then there's harbingers for like, oh gosh, the end is near. We are almost toast. It's time to start. Like once they start doing that, you really need to get your resume, start working on your resume and stuff like that. There's like bad harbingers. Oh, once your car starts doing that, you better start looking for a new car because it's making this sound. Or okay, thank goodness. Uh, the construction people across the street are walking around with metal detectors, so it looks like they're going to be removing it. Like we have little signs that aren't necessarily directly related to what's happening, but like you see them when something bad is happening or good is about to happen. And I believe that this issue right here is a harbinger of the end is near. It's a very, very bad harbinger. And it's when, see, like the application compiled and everything was great, but all I have is a blank screen over here. And um, if I hit F12, you see that I have this circular dependency detected for underscore SRV1. And it's saying the path. See, and honestly, now that I've sort of dug into this sort of issue, you can see that the path SRV1, SRV2. So its circular dependency is sort of, I think, a synonym for the word infinite loop. So an infinite loop is like um, um, uh, so an infinite loop is like if it's a very common thing. It'd be like you see them a lot in uh, loop while loops. So you say like while x is equal to true, boom, and then you say like let x equals true, and then you say oh, I'm not in a function. Um, so let's just put this in the constructor. And I'm not 100% sure on this. This is like just me sort of guessing. It might be worth my while to actually, and I've never done this before, so I have no idea what the lift on doing something like this is, but like actually look at the Angular source code that they, because I believe it is an open source project, so you can actually look at it and look at when in this, look inside of this R3 injector hydrate function and see what in the world is going on. Because it seems like when I look at this, and I've looked at this like thousands of times, never been able to make heads or tails of it, but it looks like there's like a function named inject2, or maybe, yeah, a function named inject2, or maybe a class name inject2 or something. And then it has this EE inject, injector only. I think once you start seeing something like this, inject injector only, um, it's sort of a sign that like that the code is a bit not completely thoroughly thought out, or maybe early architectural decisions are maybe painted them into a corner or something like that. But so we inject the injector only. So you would think if you're saying inject injector, you would only be injected. You wouldn't think you would need this only word if, unless for some reason they're doing sort of a side effect, uh, where when I say inject injector, I'm actually injecting a bunch of other stuff too. But when I say inject injector only, I'm only. It seems like you would have it the other way around. You say inject injector, and that would only be the injector, and then you'd say it inject injector and blah 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 the other stuff. So to me, this is sort of a smell. I'm not necessarily saying it was a bad decision or anything like that. I'm just saying that when I look at that, it gives me a bit of the heebie-jeebies. And then retrieve R3 injector retrieve. Apparently this is fine. This is fine. And then they run this get. So I don't know. And that's like another thing that kind of makes me different is like, what's the difference between get and retrieve? Is this like a cultural difference? Like, is the person who sort of did this, are they from like another country and they speak in a different language where things, because from where I'm coming, or yeah, or they speak in English, but the words, but retrieve and get are the same thing. Um, but apparently retrieve and get are two different things. Um, and then they do this hydrate, and apparently that's when all hell breaks loose because then they throw this cyclic dependency error and create runtime error. So I didn't just do that on the fly. Like I've been working on this all week trying to understand this, and for 5 years or something, I've been running into this problem and all that. And this problem is kind of go back to my initial statement was this problem is probably a harbinger of the end of the project in my experience. Like in my experience, once you start seeing these errors start to appear, you're within 3 to 6 months away from the project being shut down because you're sort of at the beginning of massive instability. Um, but it's not just that you're at the at the front of massive instability. That typically isn't enough to kill a project. But the problem is that things that come from this have a tendency to make it outside of the development walled garden. So normally you have sort of things that happen inside the development team, and then to outsiders, like let's say even like to the QA and to the business analysts or the systems engineers or whatever, or project managers, all of them, there's things that happen inside the development bubble that is not exposed to them. These tend to leak out of that bubble because um, mostly because the transpiler just doesn't catch it. So now, and I've been trying to think through, okay, why does this happen? But so anyways, that's why I think it's the cyclic error, I think is just saying that something like this is happening. So basically it's trying to read something in service one, and then there's some function that tries to read something in service two, and then there's another function. See, it goes service one, service two, then back to service one, and then that's when Angular recognizes in runtime, but not in compile time. But it notices in runtime that it has gone into an infinite loop, and um, and then it just sort of bails out. It just says, hey, I see a pattern here that isn't a good pattern and causes everything to break. I think that's what's happening. I don't know that that's what's happening, but I think that's what that. So it's something along this. It's just like, um, um, but anyway, so that's where I'm sort of at mentally, and I do think that the reason I'm willing to just drop everything is to make this happen or to kind of get to the bottom of this is because I want um, is because I want to understand this. Well, one reason is like in my current job, it's just not that sort of kind of job. This is not. I don't have the kind of job where you just want to um, quit. Like, oh, things are going bad. So like this is kind of job. It's sort of important that we get everything working and that it stays working because it's like it actually matters. Honestly, a lot of organizations will put hundreds of millions of dollars into something and no one's even thought it out. Like they're like, I just want security. And then they go, okay, we're just going to throw $100 million at security. But that's it. It's just this vague word. Um, we just want to use AI. And then they throw $100 million at AI and they don't even know what they're using it for or whatever. And then maybe a month later, the CEO goes, oh, let's go fire that team and say that we're going to have that AI do what that team does. And then it's like a year before they realize, oh crap, no one's doing what that team was doing. They were like the ones that were finding at the very beginning of the chain of work, and now we got rid of them. And the end of the chain is takes like 2 years. That's not unusual at all. Like for example, I believe a Boeing 777 takes 2 years to build. So there's someone selling Boeing 777s. You could fire that person, and you're not going to notice them being gone for 2 years probably. But in 2 years, you won't have anything left to do. So, and then the CEO can say that those salespeople, those early salespeople get massive. It's a very difficult job, and they get massive um, checks. They get paid a lot. Well, you can fire them, and then the CEO can take bonuses based on savings, but no one's going to notice for a couple of years, and then they can even start firing everybody up the line until you get to the very end, and then at the end, it's just like you don't have any any business left. And I think AI and chat are large language models has been like sort of the thing that has empowered a lot of leaders to make really bad decisions like that. But that's neither here nor there. What I'm saying is that this is a harbinger. When you see this problem, you're likely at the end of the road. Like you are working on a zombie project that's dead. It just doesn't realize it's dead yet. Um, and I would love to turn that around. I would love to figure out what that is and then fix that. So, just like I think it's important, like for your own sanity, that you kind of dig into why you do things. And that is at this moment today, the re the reason I'm doing this. So now why? Why does this happen? So we have the same problem in car, if I remember correctly. Maybe not. Maybe we do, don't. Because see, the thing is like I said, I don't really necessarily think. Okay, so we don't. I don't necessarily think that I'm gonna bring in house too. I don't think that it's actually a technical issue. Like I think that most um, projects could, in fact, continue going and being useful for years. But but since this leaks out of the sort of the dev bubble, then you start getting project managers or BAs or systems engineers, whatever you call them, wherever you're at. Um, you start getting them to see these things, and then they start like expressing to their leadership. So normally, what like in most a lot of places, you'll have like maybe a project manager, and the project manager usually um, reports directly to a vice president. But in most places, you also have developers, and developers generally will report to a lead or sometimes a manager, and then that manager will report to a director, and then that director will report to a vice president. And so, like, and many times the developer earns twice as much as the product manager. Like they get paid a lot more than the product manager, but the product manager has a relationship with a vice president. So you have these two vice presidents. Now, normally presidents, they really cannot distinguish the difference between, like, they're all technical. Everyone's technical to them, right? Like they go, as a matter of fact, a lot of times they think that the product manager's vice president is more technical than the developer's vice president, where whoever they go up to, because they can go to the product manager and say, hey, you know what? I want the button to turn to red. I want that button. I want that button when you push it, it does a little animation before it's done. And it gets done. But if they say that to the development manager, it doesn't get done. Or development vice president, it doesn't get done because, like everything's kind of designed to go through the product. So once those product managers and systems engineers start seeing this bug, they'll start reporting it up the line, and it'll get pretty a pretty strong signal up to the top that there's a lot of instability. And then these are the kinds of things that will go to also hit the QA, which the QA usually has another vice president. They're usually reporting just their own thing straight up the line. And they have their own vice president too. So you have the QA vice president saying, oh man, the project has become completely unstable. Like we're seeing this weird bug, and none of the developers can give us a good reason because generally developers have no idea what causes this. I've been in many places where we had like people that work from MIT, from Georgia Tech, from any place you can imagine, and we're all trying to figure this out, and nobody can understand what is causing this cyclic circular dependency issue. Um, so the devs can't really give a good reason for it, and up top they're trying to figure out where do they allocate money for the future, and they're like, yeah, I don't want to allocate, like they'll just shut it down because they're always having to make decisions on what the best way to spend their money is. So I think that is why these things get killed, and I do think I want to understand it. And then so now, why does it happen? And I would say that the problem is Agile fall, right? Like basically you have your product people coming up with what the things they want to do, and then you have your developers trying to develop it, and many times you have multiple teams. So like let's imagine there's a team, a house team. These people work on the house, right? They're always adding features to the house. So let's go to the house and say like we got a new feature. And so I'm going to go to the implementation of this thing. And okay, so we're going to add two more things. We're going to say open front door, and let's see, we'll get rid of this because this is kind of more like yesterday I added these. So I'm going to say this. Dot garage door. It's open, and then instead of house, we have this. All right, so it makes sense. Like the product managers get together and they say, you know what, we're going to add a new function. They have meetings and they describe what they're going to be doing. So we're going to add a front door to our house. Front door. And it is an object. And it's actually two things, right? It's opened. I feel like there should be two ends and opened. False. By default, it's false. And we're going to add a different thing, wreath. And then this can be, this is a Boolean too. We'll just say whether there's a wreath on there. Boolean of true. So our house, it has a front door and it's got that. And so we want to we want to be able to open the front door, so we added this dot front door dot opened is equal to false, and then close door, close front door. This dot front door dot opened front door. I just had a little bit of a strange experience because I have a bug up there, and then that distracted me. So that's false. When we say open the front door, we want this to be true. All right. So now, like, we reported that, hey, great job. My house team has done a great job. We have two features now. We have open and closed garage door and open and closed front door. And then you go to the car people and they're like, oh, okay, we did good too. We have the stop car, start car, and then we have doors, or yeah, doors, and then our openings. See that? Okay, this is driving me crazy. Open. Opened. Oh, it looks like opened. Okay, so yeah, that looks past tense. So it is supposed to be past tense. Opened. Okay, so yeah, the last thing we did was we opened it. We are marking it as opened. I guess that makes sense. So now you got the car team, and they're like, um, what do we want to call this? I'm just going to add a trunk. A trunk, and the trunk is got two states. It can be opened. Is that right? Gosh, this damn this damn language of ours. Oh, okay. No, we just literally just opened colon false. So by default, our trunk is opened, and so this, and then we add two functions. We're going like open trunk and close trunk. And then you say, okay, this dot trunk dot opened is equal to true. So I can imagine we do a bunch of code right before that, and then the last line is to mark it as opened. This dot trunk is equal to opened is equal to false. All right, so now, they're reporting up the line. Both, we got the house group, and they're like, we did great. We're awesome. We got, we added a wreath. We even have a wreath. We added a front door and a wreath, and we added a way to, we added a way to open it, and we added a way to close it. And the car people are like, yeah, we're just as good. We did the same thing. Sooner or later, one of the two of those product managers is going to say, what would be really cool is if we could start the car from the house, right? So we want to add a function here where we say start car from start car, right? Now this one, and in order to be able to do this, what we need is our car object, right? We need our, and I don't think this in itself causes a circular dependency. Yeah. So at this point, we're like, okay, yeah, we went to the car, the car team, the car this the house project product manager said, "Hey, car people, can you go ahead and would it be possible for us to start the car from inside the house? Like it would be really nice if we could start the car from inside the house." And they're like, "Yeah, sure. Just inject us. Just bring us in, and we'll be able to do that. You'll be fine." And then you could say, car start car, and then you could say this dot car dot start car, and then we might want to stop it too, right? We might like it's possible that we would be like we decided to start the car, but then we decided, oh crap, I can't go, so we add our stop car, and that I think makes perfect sense, and we don't have any problems. But oddly enough, when the person, let's say the house person, gets smart and says, gets a clever idea and says, I want to start the car, they'll be like, well, from the car, it would be really nice if we could open the garage door. And the thing to keep in mind is that this code is being updated in isolation of this code. This code is already there. So this team is working. So let's say it's sprint one. We're in sprint one for 2026. It's a 3-week sprint. And for 3 weeks, we got this working and everything is perfectly fine. We can start the car from our house. In the meantime, in a completely different branch, a completely different team is saying, well, okay, we want to be able to take this house and we want to inject our house, and we want to say, um, how did I do that over in the car? Yeah, start car. Okay. Open house front door. I think this is very reasonable. I don't think there's any issue with the general idea. And then we're going to say that we're going to use this dot house and dot open start. Oh, I didn't do house dot open front door. And I think that makes total sense, right? And then we're going to say close house front door. Oh, actually, we want to do the garage. Well, okay, fine. It doesn't matter. Uh, so let's say we were like, oh yeah. So I can imagine you saying, hey, the kids are starting school next week, and we want to, you know, I'm driving home um, while they're um when they're getting walk when they walk home. So I get off at 4, they get off at 4. I usually get there 5 or 10 minutes late, so they're gonna give me a call, and then I'm gonna push a button in my car and let them into the front door. I'm gonna open the front door for them, and then once they're in there, to give me a call, and I'm gonna close the front door. That's how I'm gonna make sure that the kids get in and close the door safely. Is I'll push the buttons from the car. I don't think that from a coding perspective, there's any issue with this whatsoever. And but when you hit save, and both groups would be able, you notice that right now we have done it. We got it working. We can start the car from inside the house. There's no problem. If we go the other way around and now we hit save, if we were in a different branch, we'd be able to do this too, and it would work perfectly. But once we merged, we would have this. We would have this, it would just break. So we're working independently. Everything's working perfectly in two different sprint teams working, and then they both had this idea that they're going to inject each other and use each other, and then all suddenly, and they both worked fine, and then they merged, and now when it got to QA, this is broken. And not only that, but someone saying, I can't let my kids in the house. I was counting on you letting my kids in the house this week. Um, and you said it was no big deal. You said it was working, but it doesn't work. And now what are we going to do? And and that's bad. That's a really, really bad thing. But nobody even knows what's causing this. That's the worst part, right? Because you're like, hey, yeah, it's broken. Why? I don't know. It says something about circular dependency. I don't even know what that means. Um, and um, and that, my friends, is the major problem. And that I don't think, like, sometimes you try to do stuff and then like the the uh the tech people, the devs and all that, and their managers and all that can tell you, that's a very bad idea if we do this. But nobody, this is not a bad idea. There's nothing wrong with this idea. So I think, so we have to, but this is something that we have to be able to do. Like, this is not like I don't think I can build my ThreeJS system with, um, without this sort of concept. I need to be able to say, hey, I have a mesh. Can you please animate it? Hey, I'm the animation. Can you please get me this mesh? Like, I need both of those things. Because, like, the one thing that is a little simpler, or there's a lot of things that are a lot simpler, but one of the things that this doesn't account for is having more than one car or more than one house. So in my situation for the 3JS thing is I need to have more. I have many renders. I have many animations. I have many how meshes, and so my animation system has to have a way to get a mesh, and my mesh system has to have a way to get the mesh animated. Like, both of those need to be done, and that is all over the place. Like, I have that issue throughout my entire application. So this is a critical part of my application. Um, and I have to figure out a way to make this work. So if I hit save, now my problems are gone. And so what I think I need to do, because it's okay for one to inject the other, but they can't inject each other. So what I think I need to do is I need to move all my static functions, all my functions that just do stuff, into a class. And then the class knows how to, and so yeah, the class knows how to get the class. Well, no, it knows how to perform actions on a house, right? So in my car, so I have a car class, right? I am honestly making this up as I go. So I want to move this out of here, right? Maybe anything that works directly in, like, inside of, yeah, I don't know. Let's just kind of walk down this. Let me delete this. Normally, I like to keep my unit tests, but since I don't have these things divided up into folders and stuff, it that many files gets to be a bit overwhelming for me. All right, so I have my car class, and inside of my car class, I want to have these functions. But it doesn't it doesn't have a house, right? And I might be, now that I think about this, this might be a bit of a house. So I want to take a house. Now, I think okay, so one thing that is a bit off on this is my house is actually the service, and it probably, oh, it's the house class. Okay, so I wonder if I could do that. Okay, so this is a class, but it's like a singleton class. So my house class, oh, car. So this is going to accept a house class. I don't know if that, yeah, I think it's starting to come together in my house, in my brain. House class. And so when I inject this, See, all it gets is like this is not the singleton house. This is just telling it this is what describes a house. And now I can say house front door. So it's the job of whatever wants to use this to give it a house to use. Now, it would be nice if this could just be in the singleton service, in the service itself, the for root service. That would be really nice, but it just doesn't work. So I'm not saying that this is the best way to do this. What I'm saying is that this is that the other way that I think is a better way to do it doesn't work. That's what I'm saying. And sometimes that's just the reality. And it's just like, so now this I can do. I can get this and I can get a house. So I can say car class. Maybe it's actually easier than I'm thinking. So instead of injecting the actual car service, I can I can I can create a class that is a car class. I think I can even do the same thing. Car class. I think I might have to say new. And I don't even know if you can do this. Car. And I guess at this point I could actually, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think this is how I need to do this. I don't think it's the best way to do this. Now, I'm saying, hey, this car, start car doesn't work because I don't know what the house is. So this dot house, right? Or maybe this. Okay, what's this thing complain about? Start car does not exist on. Oh, and that's because I don't want to start. I don't have. Well, let's just see what we get. Oh, okay. So, okay, so I'm in the wrong. Okay. Okay, so I can okay, so the car, okay, I'm inside the house, right? Yeah, I'm in the house and I want to start the car. Okay, so I'm going to undo this and I'm going to comment this up because I've got a gap. I've got some sort of gap here. So in my house, I have access to the car class, which is some stuff that knows how to do things. Oh, okay. So it's in the car. Okay, yeah, I got silly. I got silly. So in the car. It's like as you do this, like sort of things, experiences that you had in your life that this sort of connects the dot for, like starts to appear in your brain. Um, and I can remember dealing with this Russian dude that was sort of explaining something to me in Angular a long time ago, and he just could not explain it very well. Okay, so our car service. Boy, it sure would have been nice to if we had the word service. Um, so this is our car service. So let's do that. Let's rename this. Yeah, gosh, I used to work with this dude. He was this big, gigantic Russian guy, and he was the one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. But he's a real pain in the butt sometimes. And Yes. Okay, so it fixed it for me. All right. But he was explaining this exact thing to me a long, long time ago. But he didn't really understand Angular. He was more of a Java developer, and so he didn't quite have all the dots connected. All right. So the goal. I've already forgotten the goal. So we've gotten this class, and it knows how to open the front door of a house if you give it a house. And our problem is that I guess our problem is okay. So this doesn't have. See, I'm even running into like, and this is good. I'm running into like, what am I even trying to do here? All right. So I want to avoid the car service having to inject the house. That's all I'm trying to do here. And only because it causes a circular dependency. There's no other reason other than the actual reality. Just reality sucks in this situation. Um, so I'm trying to kind of come up with a workaround. And in some ways, like my workaround is probably going to be pretty simple, but I'm overcomplicated in my brain because there's just a lot of moving parts that I'm accounting for that probably aren't even relevant. So I've created a class and it is capable of taking a house and opening the front door. So the problem is whenever sometimes so I want to so as the car team, the car team, they're like, hey, we would like to be able to the our boss said we want to open the front door of the house, but we don't know what the house is. I mean, but we want to open the front door of the house from the car. So that's our job. And we try to do this and we got a circular dependency. So now we say our app has a car, and this is where it would probably be done, right? So basically, from here, we want to be able to say, hey, I'm in my car and I would like to open the front door. I don't know why that's available. Okay, because it just was guessing this is what I want to do, but I can't. And it's because I can't, because inside of my car, I can't. So here, I guess, is where I would implement my car class. And a lot of times when you figure things like that, okay, I'm telling you from personal experience and having worked with people with every kind of degree, PhDs in computer science and all that, that this bug shows up and none of them can figure it out. Now that we're starting to figure it out, I'm guessing, and we're putting words to it, I'm guessing people with those degrees would be able to say, oh, this is the XYZ pattern and blah, blah, blah. And the workaround for that is this, or the way to fix that is so it's a new car class. And I almost feel like we could actually give it house. I feel like that might be legal. But in order to be able to do that, we need to go into our car class and we need to give it a constructor. Well, we need to give it an attribute called house. House colon house equals. And I think we need to, no, I think we can do that. And then we can say constructor. And then we can say um, house colon house, and we can say this dot house is equal to house. Yeah. So basically, we're saying I don't know anything about an injector. I don't have the vaguest idea. The injector, me and the injector are completely unaware of each other. Um, but I do know what a house is. I don't know which house it is, but I know what a house is. And then inside of my app, I can do this car class house. Now, I didn't know. Maybe I can't do this. Oh, this dot house. Oh, that's interesting. And then I can say car class. Um, I can create a function, right, called open house door from car. And I can say this dot car class, which is a horrible name, right? Instance. This dot car class instance is equal to, oh no, the dot open house front door. Nope, apparently not. Oh, that's because go to definition. We don't need this anymore because we set it up at the beginning. And I feel like I've seen this sort of implementation lots and lots of places, and I don't think that anybody understood why they were doing this implementation and the reason they were doing. And there's probably a lot of really good, like separation of concerns, all kinds of great, like sort of very formal ways to describe like sort of the benefits of the merits of this. But but to me, the biggest merit as an engineer is, and as an actual practitioner, I guess maybe that's what I am, a software practitioner, um, is that it seems to work. It seems like I can do this. So like it seems there's no dependency issue now. We don't have a circular dependency. Now, does it actually work? I guess to prove that it works, we would have to go into our house service. So let's go ahead and rename that. I mean, let's face it, the whole point to naming things is so that it's easier to describe things that need to get done. Um, and um, um, a lot of times that we name things just because we're supposed to name them, but we aren't actually achieving the whole point. But so now, basically, when we say, what can we do now from the car class? Okay, uh, open front door. So in our house, when we open the front door, we can say console.log this dot garage door. Oh, the front door has been opened. No idea why I so desperately want to put two ends there. All right, so basically, if we look in our console, Oh, we never do call it. So let's basically just from our app. I mean, we could create a button, all that, but I'm assuming if you are watching this video and if you've been following along, if you're like, I think there's like two people that follow this me pretty regularly. If you're one of those two people, you clearly know how to make a button and push the button. If you did a search on circular dependencies and you're like, I'm trying to understand what the heck this is, the ng0200 circular, you know how to make a button to click it. If you don't know how to make a button to click it, then you're probably in the wrong place. Not to be negative, but it's probably like um, it's like you're learning to swim, which we're all there, and then you just got thrown in the deep end of the pool. This is pretty okay. First of all, it's an edge case. It's a bizarre edge case, and it's a very complex edge case. And it's an edge case that probably won't even exist in the future. I would imagine that sooner or later they will figure out a way to defeat this issue, or at least prevent it from compiling. If they could at least just prevent it from compiling in this, like, so when the two teams merged the code together and a circular dependency has been created, if it just wouldn't build, that would save, that would probably save projects. Um, so anyways, in our constructor, so that's why I'm not building. But funnily enough, I guess I could have probably built out the button and the click and the handler just as faster as, than explaining why I'm not. Which, oh my God, that is so. No, not this car classes. It's this dot open. So now what we have is like our app knows how to open. Okay, our app can inject both the house and the car service and without a bug, and it can open the house door from the car. Did I freaking get anything out of that? Well, let's just make sure that that actually works and then sort of think through it. Did not seem to. I don't understand. Oh, wait, did I go to definition? Maybe that didn't even work. Oh, we uh, put that in the wrong place. Open front door. Save. Save, and then F12. I don't even know. Now I'm confused again. Yeah, so we were able to do that. Now, and the problem is that I need a way to be able to pass a mesh to a class and have the animation added to it. And I need to be able to pass a mesh ID to, okay, I need to be able to pass a mesh ID. My animation service needs to be able to get an instance of a given ID, a given mesh ID, but it can't inject the mesh ID. It can't inject the mesh service, right? So what we have to avoid at all costs is this. We have to be able to avoid that. But we have to be able to add an animation to it. But we can't add it, or yeah, and the animation service is the one that knows how to add animations to so the animation service A knows how to get an animation. It also knows how to add an animation service, but maybe to like anything, right? That's where that logic goes. But really, what I'm saying here is that, and I don't know what I'm saying, right? Or I'm trying to figure this out. I guess what I'm in effect saying is that these sorts of behaviors don't belong in the service. The only thing that belongs in the service is the actual class itself and stuff like that. The actual car, the actual instance of the car is the only thing that belongs over here. And I guess its attributes or the list of cars. See, because that's what's gotten me, right? So this is my service. Yeah, my car service. Because and this is kind of what screws things up. Okay, so I'm going to rename this to service. I guess now we've got the actual dragon defeated, but now, so we are through the science part, right? Where we've come up with a hypothesis and tested the hypothesis. And now I feel like we've demonstrated that we've created an experiment to demonstrate that the hypothesis is true. Um, Now we're to the engineering phase. Like, okay, so now we know the truth. We know what the pieces are. We know how it all fits together. Um, so how do we um, now? How do we compose all these new things together so that we can use them to the way we want to use them. And so I guess what's happening as we go farther and farther into this thing, we're starting to like we have to further divide what it is. So before we could just call it a car, and then we could call it a car. Then we had to create a car class, and now we're having to make this into a car service. Um, and so we still have a problem in here. And this gets to me is at very, very weirdly a weird set of abstractions that we've got going on here. So basically, it would not be weird to think that, hey, I'm in card class and I'm getting this house service, and to think that you have the singleton service, but we don't. We're passing in the service in the actual house. But the problem is now the house isn't a house; it's a house service. The car isn't a car; it's a car service. And so the words, as we've sort of scaled this up, have gotten a little bit more. Um, we have to get more precise. So like house service needs to be. This needs to be changed to house service now, in order to try to understand what's going on. Service. And then we'll just go ahead and fix this in all our different places. And I'd say that like we have kind of baby stepped through a bunch of concepts here. And I think if you've gone through the baby steps, um, the the it's not that hard, or at least it doesn't feel to me like it should be that hard. But like if you're just trying to jump straight to this, see, now we're no longer working with house. Like this doesn't even make any sense. Like a house service. No, I want to open the front door to the house, not the house service. So like as we've kind of dug in, let's see. Let's go ahead and fix this one. And I do not think this is like a waste of time. Like a part of me is just like I'm inside me. I'm having sort of an internal conflict because it's like, is this just a huge waste of time? Um, but I don't think it is, and I don't think like I think as we're getting closer to um, the solution is starting to become freaking obvious and almost silly. And I will say that I think that is a sign that you're on the right track. That is a good harbinger. That is like, oh, once you figure it all out, it's silly and stupid. Like once you get to that point, like you've probably actually achieved what you were trying to achieve. Um, and it's not a great feeling, but it's the sort of the reality. So right now, like we had the idea that the service itself was in fact the house, and now we're trying to expand the concept uh, to say that um, and see like for that could have got very that this comment could have become very confusing. Let's see if we have the same thing in the car. I believe so. We are in, that was the car. Okay. Okay. So now in order for this to sort of so we're slowly but surely getting closer and closer to an actual um, solution to the other problem on the side. And not only that, but this has got to be so rock solid because once we dive back into the Three.js application mine, abstractions and all that in there, like this, if this isn't solidly in place, it's going to be really easy to get super confused over there because it looks like what I need is, and I over there I have meshes and then I have a mesh service. Over here, I just have the car service. Um, but we actually need like a car interface, and then the car to emulate what we had over there. What we need is actually a list of cars over here in the car service, and we need a list of houses over here in the house services, and then we need a way to get our actual instances back. And we got to be able to do that without injecting the other service. So that is the next step in this trial by fire. Anyways, happy coding, everybody. Bye.